The title of this video has a slur in it, which, by the way, YouTube, why are we allowing slurs in titles now? Like, look at this. Why are we allowing slurs in titles? Is that okay now? Is that cool? I feel like that's probably against TOS to put slurs in titles. So I'm not really sure why that's even there or how this video is still on the platform. But I can tell you right now, well, Chris, the thing about it is most chuds don't. They'll put a star in the word or a dash or an underscore or something like that. Typically, YouTube doesn't allow you to put slurs in your titles. So that's kind of wild that they're allowing that. Like, I expect the video to be bad, but...
Spider-Man Brand New Day is the most retarded piece of shit I've seen in a very long time. So,
by the way, all of that language in the first 5 seconds of the video, and it's still up and monetized, is crazy, YouTube. It's crazy. The amount of times that I have made videos, and I know this for a fact, the amount of times I've made videos where I even use the word shit in the first minute, and YouTube is like, no, that's not advertiser friendly.
Somehow 4 movies into Tom Holland's run as Spider-Man still has him falling around the place, acting like a complete handicap.
Yeah, that's the point, bro. Something's wrong with him. That's what's happening in the trailer. When you watch the whole trailer, you see that, oh shit, something is wrong with him, and that's why he's having trouble. That's the point. Holy fuck.
Even with 4 movies and a new universe under his belt, this guy still manages to be the biggest cuck known to man.
Even if it breaks Peter Parker's heart.
Do you know what a cuck is? Like, this isn't a cuck. I don't know if you understand what a cuck actually is. Maybe you should talk to your dad. Maybe you should have a conversation with your dad about that. But this is not what a cuck is.
Oh yeah, and just because they shittily recreated some classic comic covers doesn't make this absolute cinema anywhere near good. Especially...
Has anybody said it's absolute cinema because they used some recreations of covers in it? Has anybody said that? I mean, first of all, the movie's not even out yet. So there's that. But I don't think anybody has said that it's like anyone... I'm not talking about like faceless internet accounts. I mean like anybody who makes content with some sort of good faith involved has said that this is absolute cinema.
For the people who are hyping this up and saying that it's amazing, you haven't read any of the comics that they're referencing, and also ignoring all...
I don't think you've read them either. I think that you probably have read some comics. I don't think you've read like all the comics you complain about. I don't think you do that either.
All of that, it just looks like it was made by AI for spastics on Twitter who eat up every single piece of guy slop they get fed. But before...
It's really interesting that your scripts sound like they were written by AI. You know what I mean? Like you're on here complaining about AI and people on Twitter, but the way you talk and speak is literally Twitter speak, and it sounds like an AI script. That's the funniest part about this.
Get into it. If you like these type of videos and if you want to help out the channel, maybe consider subscribing.
We don't.
Spider-Man Brand New Day isn't comic accurate. It's not a good...
It doesn't have to be comic accurate. Most Spider-Man movies that we've had over the years are not comic accurate. They're stories adapted from the comics. None of them have been comic accurate. Matter of fact, Tobey Maguire, back in the day, the very first Spider-Man movie was filled with inaccurate things from the comics. Webb's being the big one. But continue.
Spider-Man movie, and it does so many things that go against the entire Marvel universe, Spider-Man as a character, and superheroes in general. So
okay, so you've already seen the movie then. Based on this trailer, you've already seen the entire movie. Like, who watches this person like unironically? You know what I mean? Like, if you're not watching him to do this, to clown on him, are you literally like listening to him and going, yeah, he's cooking with this one?
can't be accepted than anything else other than just plain garbage. Any real fan of Spider-Man would reject this bullshit on the spot. Stop trying to nostalgia bait people and pull them in because you recreated Spider-Man's first cover. How about you actually adapt Amazing Fantasy number 15? And then
How would you adapt that story? Well, first of all, it's already been adapted. So, like, how would you adapt that story? Has he even read the book? How would you do it that in a way that hasn't already been done? Just like it would be even worse if they were using that pose from the comic and then just did the comic book story. That would be even worse. That would be really lazy. Such bad faith, man.
you'd have a good movie on your hands and not whatever the fuck spider cuck is meant to be here. So this isn't going to be some 20-minute video because we already know the deal with this movie. It looks like the biggest piece of shit known to man, made by Grok in an afternoon. But as you expect...
Why do you keep reading this AI script, bro? Why? I've mentioned this before. His videos have so many jump cuts. I mean, like, he reads one line, cut, one line, cut, one line, cut. It's so obviously just him reading something that was written for him.
That has all of the NPCs who don't read comic books and have definitely never read these Spider-Man comic books and are just eating this up because it's a brand new Marvel product that they need to love, and it can't be anything other than a 10 out of 10. Before I continue, that's a little message for the type of people who love this stuff and attack people who have any different opinion. You know, you can just turn around and say Spider-Man Brand New Day doesn't look nearly as good as any other Spider-Man movie ever made, and it kind of looks mediocre. You don't have to say that you hate it. You don't have to say that it looks garbage or political. You could just say that it's not really that great, because being
another cut, like 6 cuts in 30 seconds. 6 cuts in 30 seconds. He does this in every video.
Objective, that's what this movie is. No matter what way you look at it, it's a complete failure in writing and as a Spider-Man movie.
You haven't seen the movie. That's the funny thing. That's the brain rot. That is the situation, the diagnosis of these people is that they're just fucking stupid. The movie's not out. You haven't seen it. You saw a trailer. And you've already decided that the movie is going to be bad, meaning that you're not going to ever actually watch the movie outside of a bias, because you've already established that you think it's going to be shit from the beginning. This is one of the biggest problems I have with channels like this. Now, the reality is Ranting for Vengeance isn't here to make meaningful content. I know people like for me to call this kid out, but he's not here to make meaningful content. He's not a legitimate critic. He's not here to talk about movies in a real way. He's literally just here to do this. Somebody writes a script for him. It's probably done with some AI, and then he just reads it, and it gets slopped together and thrown up to rage bait. That's what he does. I'm not going to get outraged by him. I think he's just stupid. I think he's just really stupid. Or he's gullible enough to fall for this, to go on camera and make an idiot of himself at the behest of someone else. And I'm actually blaming YouTube on this one. When you have adults making hateful content, knowing full well what kind of stuff they're doing and what they're trying to achieve, that's one thing. When you have a kid on YouTube doing this and the titles have slurs in them, like, what are we doing, YouTube?
Only good Spider-Man movies ever made that were comic accurate and objectively the best were Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. It wasn't the...
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy was not comic accurate. Like, what are you even talking about? Like I said earlier, organic webbing is not comic accurate. Characters, Peter didn't do everything he did in the comics. MJ definitely didn't do everything she did in the comics. Like, it's, what are you talking about comic accurate? I just need to make sure that's what you said, because that's crazy.
As a Spider-Man movie. The only good Spider-Man movies ever made that were comic accurate and objectively the best were Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. It wasn't the Christopher Nolan Amazing Spider-Man 1, and it wasn't the cringe race swap rom-com music video that...
Did he just say that Christopher Nolan made the Amazing Spider-Man? Y'all, I didn't know that Christopher Nolan made an Amazing Spider-Man movie. I didn't know that.
Best were Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. It wasn't the Christopher Nolan Amazing Spider-Man 1, and it wasn't the cringe race swap rom-com music video that was the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And
I don't care about the dumb shit he said about Amazing Spider-Man 2. I can't believe he said Christopher Nolan made a Spider-Man movie. So Mark Webb made Amazing Spider-Man. Certainly not Christopher Nolan. So what the fuck is he talking about? There's a Christopher Nolan Amazing Spider-Man cut out there. Hashtag release the Christopher Nolan cut. All right.
by God, was it not Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse? Because those aren't Spider-Man movies.
Oh.
Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is a kid from the hood, which in every iteration never fails to be political, obnoxious, and retarded. But anyways, moving back to Spider-Man Brand New Day, I can't believe it. They recreated the first Spider-Man cover. How about you actually read that comic and then you'll realize why the movie looks garbage?
So if you read that headline, it doesn't even say anything that he's saying. He's just being hyperbolic. What?
Any issue from the Steve Ditko Spider-Man run, and it'll debunk any leftist on Twitter and every single Spider-Man movie that followed. Except,
Why does it have to be a leftist on Twitter? Who got political on this? Is there some political thing going on with Spider-Man that I'm not aware of? I don't know. I'm not totally sure. And by the way, it's not the Steve Ditko run. All right.
the Sam Raimi ones, which took inspiration from the original and best Steve Ditko Spider-Man comics.
Inspiration, meaning they're not comic book accurate. They're not, inspiration is literally means you're adapting it. It's not comic book accuracy if it's inspired by. You don't even know what you're talking about. It's so fucking ridiculous.
That's one thing I'll say. I'm not a Spider-Man expert. I haven't read every
Clearly.
single era and every single comic, but I have read the Steve Ditko stuff, which I love. Any person
Steve Ditko doesn't write things. He's an artist. Okay.
that knows anything about comics knows that the Steve Ditko run is the only one really worth a shit.
Are you forgetting somebody named Stan Lee? I don't know. Maybe Stan Lee had something to do with Spider-Man's first runs, but okay.
Even the annoying Marxist himself, Alan Moore, thought the exact same thing. And sorry to break it to you, Steve Ditko created Spider-Man, and by no means was he...
Not by himself. Bro, if you're going to talk about like comic book history and being true to comic book history, you got to do a little bit more than this. Got to be a little bit better than this. Like seriously.
a leftist or a Marxist or
what does that
Jewish,
have to do with Spider-Man?
Which kind of sounds weird, but trust me, there's a lot of people out there that believe that Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is a Jewish communist, which they're...
Anti-Semitic shit? In your trailer review for Brand New Day? What are we doing, YouTube? What are we doing?
There's just so many contradictions. Like, didn't Aunt May and Uncle Ben get buried in a graveyard? And didn't Spider-Man ask for consent before kissing Mary Jane? Just small stuff like that. Like, Spider-Man crawls on walls and buildings. He doesn't really crawl in sewers. So he can't really be Jewish, right? But I'll move...
Did bro just try to talk about Jewish people as people crawling in sewers? That's wild. I see why people wanted me to watch this video. This is straight up slurs, anti-Semitic shit. Like, that's what this is. This isn't one of those times where it's like, well, maybe no. Like, bro just tried to insinuate that Jewish people hang out in sewers. Which, by the way, the joke doesn't even, like, if you're trying to give a racist joke or anti-Semitic joke or whatever, the joke has to make sense. There are plenty of examples of Spider-Man actually fighting in the sewers. It happens in one of the movies. Actually, I think it happens in more than one of the movies. But the issue is you're trying to make the joke about Jewish people, ignoring the fact that we have seen Spider-Man fighting in the sewers. So the joke doesn't even make sense from that standpoint.
On from that very quickly. All you need to know is that Spider-Man Peter Parker can't be Jewish because when he's swinging around,
bro, who cares? I have not heard this as a talking point ever. I don't think. Like, what are we doing?
Saving the day, helping some children out. He actually returns them home. He doesn't bring them to an island and. So yeah, my point on Amazing Fantasy is that, oh yeah.
Like, what was the issue? Like, what was the point of all that?
Nobody's read it, so why are you celebrating this? These two comics right here were also referenced and look 10 times better on the comic cover than they do in the CGI slop that is this trailer.
I don't care about subjective takes. I don't care if you don't like them or you think they look bad. That's irrelevant to me.
And I'll be upfront, I haven't read these two comics. I'm really not a fan of Todd McFarlane's.
Clearly you haven't read a lot of them. So it's really funny to make a video being so angry about what they're doing when you haven't even read the comics.
Spider-Man, I tried reading it. It's really just not good, like anything made by Todd McFarlane. And I don't really know anything about the other one, but I'm not really shocked that you managed to create just a pose of Spider-Man crawling on a wall. Well done. You could have done that for like 40 fucking years.
Didn't you just say that that's what he does like 3 or 4 seconds before you got anti-Semitic? And now you're like, oh, congratulations, you're doing this something you could have done for a long time. Like, clearly AI is writing these fucking scripts for this kid. Clearly.
We're supposed to celebrate it now when you include one slow motion shot. How about you adapt an actual storyline from a Spider-Man comic and don't just make little references in slow motion shots that...
All of the movies are adapted storylines from the comics. That's what an adaptation is. It's not one for one. Say, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Adaptation, inspiration. Those are words that mean it is not exactly one for one the same as something from the comic books, which is what all of these things are. They're all inspired by and adapted to.
Nobody even knows what they're from. You see here Spider-Man learning to use his powers again because now he has organic webs for some weird reason. It makes zero sense.
Didn't you just say a minute ago that the best adaptation was the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, where Spider-Man has organic webs? But here, you say that the organic web thing doesn't make sense. Okay.
And it's a complete de-evolution of his character arc. And I don't even know why I'm using the phrase character arc, because Tom Holland's Spider-Man doesn't have one. He started off as a kid trying to learn how to use his powers, and eventually he got the hang of it. Oh wait, he didn't. He's still falling around on the ground like a spastic and running around after fake black MJ.
Nice flowers.
Oh, they're,
Again, I want to reiterate, if you watch the trailer, you will see that the fact that he is being affected by something is why he is having trouble swinging around and doing things. But that would require this person to actually give a fuck about what he's doing and not read some script that was most likely written by his idiot father.
housewarming gift.
I'm MJ. I'm MJ.
See, with classic 80s badass comic characters like Spider-Man and Daredevil, when they couldn't get with their main chick, they usually had somebody else like Black Widow, Elektra, Black Cat. Except Tom Holland doesn't have any of that. So basically, he's a cuck. Just like in the modern
Basically, he's a cuck. Do you even know what the fuck that... Again, you're not using the word correctly.
Garbage Spider-Man comics, Peter Parker has to sit there and watch MJ go out with black dudes. In superhero movies and superheroes in general.
So the racism too. Like it's like ableist, anti-Semitic, racism. YouTube's like, we're going to monetize this video. We're going to promote this video.
try to relate to their audience. And now this kind of makes sense. Because back with Tobey Maguire, he might miss a date with MJ and it might mess up his relationship. And the people...
You mean the Spider-Man with organic webs? They're completely not from the comics? And they ended up adding them into the comics because of the movie? For a short time they did that? Because the movie did it? Is that the one you're talking about? The one you keep opining about?
watching could relate to that because they actually had relationships in real life. Now Spider-Man is a cuck to black MJ and her black boyfriend, and I think everybody in the audience of Spider-Man Brand New Day enjoying it can relate to that, because you seriously have to be a pathetic piece of shit to actually get excited for something like Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I'm not...
It'll probably be another year before I watch a video from this guy. It's so exhausting because it's just so try-hard and so edgelord and so obvious to me that someone else wrote a script for him, he's reading it, and he doesn't really care about this stuff. It's so fucking obvious. Am I the only one who sees it? I can't be. I feel like the people in my chat are pretty aware of this kind of stuff. I can't be the only person that sees that this is all just fucking pretend for him.
Not dictating what people can like. I'm just saying, if you're a Spider-Man fan and if you call yourself that, then you can't really like this movie. It's not me telling you you can't like it. It's basically just the years of comics with Spider-Man telling you it, that objectively this isn't a Spider-Man movie. And this tweet here is saying that Spider-Man fighting the hand is from some random comic that nobody read. And I can tell you right now what Spider-Man fighting...
So you have to be a Spider-Man fan. You've already admitted that you haven't read all the comics from Spider-Man. So you're not really a big Spider-Man fan, clearly, because you said you didn't read all of these issues. You didn't like the Todd McFarlane run. You don't like some of the classic covers. You don't know the story about the hand. So who are you to get on camera and tell Spider-Man fans what they should and shouldn't like? It just doesn't make any sense.
The hand is. It's a middle finger in the face of every single Daredevil and Wolverine fan out there. Because anybody that knows anything about Marvel Comics knows that the hand is the enemy of Daredevil,
Any enemy in a comic that has crossed over and fought another person is an enemy of multiple characters. So yeah, you can have an enemy that's a primary enemy for somebody else, but they can still be enemies of other heroes. So fucking dumb.
Wolverine. Sure, the hand can fight other characters, but it's mainly Daredevil and Wolverine, and that's when they were best shown. In two of the best comics ever made, which before you comment any hate comment, make sure you've actually read them. Frank Miller's Daredevil and Frank Miller's Wolverine.
Well, I mean, you don't read all the stuff that you're complaining about, so I'm not really sure why you'd be like, oh, before you comment on my video, you have to read these things. Bro, why don't you read the stuff that you're commenting about? How about that?
Shot of Spider-Man fighting the hand is taken exactly from Frank Miller's Wolverine issue 2 from 1982, where it was done way better and one of the best superhero stories ever told. And the same goes for Daredevil. The original Frank Miller Daredevil comic beats every single live-action superhero movie ever made. That's what being a fan of the comics is. It's turning around and saying that this excellent comic beats any garbage CGI slap movie. And if you wanted to...
Yeah, I don't really care what you think about, like, what you like better, what you don't like better. That to me is uninteresting. I really just care about saying dumb stuff. Like information or misinformation, disinformation, bad faith arguments, things like that. I don't care if you like a comic book better than a movie. That doesn't mean much to me.
Example of the type of people who lose their mind over the brand new references to the comics which they haven't read. This is exactly what I'm talking about. They even got the attention to detail from the comics. This movie is going to be godlike because they recreated something which is easy to recreate.
Right, so you're just pulling up a random tweet that you can complain about. I could probably go on Twitter right now and find millions of tweets about Spider-Man and find one that totally fits whatever narrative I want to make in my video. This is dumb. It's bad faith. It's disingenuous.
As I said, how about you actually adapt a good Spider-Man story instead of making something up that makes no sense? Like Spider-Man learning...
You wouldn't know if it's a good or bad story because you've admitted that you didn't read it. So the way you're referencing this is like, oh, I know it's a good story. It's got to be better than one of the movies because what reason? You didn't read it.
To use his powers after 4 movies of this crap. This exact same guy that was losing his...
I'm going to point it out once again. You obviously didn't watch the trailer because it explains that there's something going on with him and it's affecting his powers. That's the tease for the movie. That's what we're supposed to be going to the movie to see, is what's going on with him and his powers. I don't, when I say media literacy, a lot of times, you know, I'm saying it more broadly, but here I'm saying it specifically. You are actually illiterate if you watch that trailer and you didn't realize that the powers being wonky are part of the movie. That's part of the story of the movie. And it's even in the comic that you referenced earlier.
Mind saying that it's comic accurate is trying to criticize Sam Raimi's Spider-Man fans because Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker sounds like a guy from the 1950s. Yeah, sorry to break it to you, but that's what Spider-Man and Peter Parker always was. And you're outing yourself as a tourist, a LARPer, and a fake fan. Spider-Man is...
I mean, it's really wild for you to say that, considering you just admitted in this video that you haven't read these comics that you're complaining about. I mean, the fuck?
Always meant to sound like he's from the 1950s, and anything else is a subversion and isn't Spider-Man. And speaking of subversions, I just have to get back to this guy again. He just makes everybody else just look like a complete idiot. Saying shit like anime is right-wing and Christian, and so is Spider-Man apparently. You're leaving yourself open to these people, and it's just gonna keep on happening when you don't know anything about the topic you're talking about. But saying that, I don't know which is worse. The guy saying that Spider-Man is a right-wing Christian, or the complete mental retards that think that Spider-Man is a Yiddish Jewish communist.
Okay, I'm not even going to comment on the anti-Semitic stuff. We already realized that he's an anti-Semitic content creator. But John De La Rose also being roasted by Ranting for Vengeance is funny to me. That's funny. Chud on Chud violence is always worth stopping your car for and watching.
And he's also gay somehow. So I don't really know how that works, but you should really take all of this gay shit.
You don't know how gay works? Okay.
It back to whatever synagogue you come from. Once again, he's a Jewish leftist. Evidence? Any one piece of evidence, or are you just projecting? Very similar to gay people, certain people of certain ethnicities try to come in.
It's just like every video. It's like all the check boxes of bigotry. You know, I watched his videos, like 2 or 3 of his videos last year. People would send them to me and go, react to this one. I'd watch it and I'd be like, I'm not going to watch this video. You know, the first couple minutes. Every video is this. It's all full of this stuff.
And say that Batman and Spider-Man are both Jewish. They're categorically and objectively not. This is just a fact that anybody that reads comic books...
I don't care if he's a leftist, if he's on the right. I don't care if he's Jewish. None of these things matter. If you're going to argue that identity is not important in the story, then why do you care if somebody says he's Jewish and they're not going to prove it to you? Like, why do you care? How does any of that factor in to the stuff you're talking about?
Knows. Peter Parker is just a nerd from New York City. He's not Trotsky, okay? And now we get on to one of the worst elements about this entire piece of shit, is the fact that they're taking from Japan, a much better country for superhero media. I've never really claimed to be a Spider-Man fan. I've always been more of a Devilman guy than a Spider-Man.
Then why do you care? Then why do you care? Like, if you're not passionate about something, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't make videos about Disney princesses regularly because I don't give a fuck. I know a lot of people that do. There are people in my orbit that care about that stuff. I don't care. I'm not going to make videos about it complaining about it.
Guy, because I'm not really a fan of Spider-Man's morals and just his character over the years. So Japanese heroes like Devilman, Kamen Rider, and all of the other ones, compared to the American counterpart, is really different, and they should never ever coincide. But as we've seen with recent comics copying manga, it seems the movies are doing the exact same thing, where the iconic Rider kick is just blatantly ripped off in this garbage scene, which is once again a disgrace to Spider-Man and Kamen Rider, so it's bullshit to even reference.
The director himself is into that type of fight choreography. Literally, the director himself is a fan of that. So
Oh yeah, and another thing about this scene is Frank Castle there, the Punisher. Holy shit, what the fuck is that Jufro up on top of your head? Since when has the Punisher had an
anti-Semitic
afro?
stuff.
Since
Again,
when is the Punisher some Jewish guy who says, let me tell you something over and over? Can somebody show me the comic page of the Punisher looking like this? Because John Bernthal has never been a good Punisher. He wasn't good in Daredevil. He definitely wasn't good in his own show, which wasn't even about him. It was instead about some random Muslim. And by the looks of this slop scene, which is just CGI ripping off Kamen Rider with fake Punisher.
it's not CGI. We've seen the set photos. This is live. This is not, this particular scene you keep showing is literally not CGI. One of the first things we saw was the stunt work being done for this scene. Like, the first early behind-the-scenes photos we saw, which were released by Scoopers as well as Disney and Marvel themselves and Sony, came from this particular scene in the street. There was a lot of wire fighting and things like that happening in that scene. So, yeah, there might have been some VFX assisted in removing wires and things like that, but this is literally like a stunt that was done.
And fake Spider Cuck. I don't know how any Spider-Man fan, any comic book fan, any fan of Kamen Rider could turn around and say that this looks good. That's the thing about shows like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. They never had CGI, and they could do twice as more as any of these movies ever did. But I could go
twice as more. They could do twice as more.
on for hours here talking about this movie, but I don't really want to. I'm really sick of Marvel slop that has no respect for comic books or the characters.
Oh, shut the fuck up. I'm so tired of this guy. Yeah, this is just like clearly to me, and it'll be a long time before I ever go back and watch any of his content, but clearly this kid is given a script. He's reading off of it. It gets chopped up and edited and pushed out onto YouTube. Look, my question to YouTube is, at what point, how many times does someone in one video have to break your TOS before you're like, maybe this content shouldn't be on the platform? Like, how many times does that have to happen? Because every time I've watched one of his videos, he has done multiple things in those videos that would have channels banned. The fact that there's a slur in his title is crazy.